I've spent a lot of time over the past 30 years talking to financial advisors. And one of the things that I've noticed over those years is that oftentimes they avoid making tough decisions. And what I found is that when you do make those tough decisions, you put your business on a new trajectory of growth. So what I want to share with you today are 5 of the most common tough decisions that I see financial advisors avoid making. The first one is not firing someone who needs to go. Now, this is first on the list because it's so common and it's so impactful. There's someone on your team who you know needs to go, they know they need to go, but neither of you are doing anything about it. Now, look, I've fired people and I've been fired myself. I know what it's like. It's no fun. But what I realized is if it's not working for me, it's not working for them either. And what I also discovered was when you do the humane thing, which is to let someone go who's not working out, what happens is they have that push, that impetus that they now need to go out and find another opportunity that's a better fit for them. So as a leader, you've really got to step up and make the tough decision if there's someone on your team who shouldn't be there. Again, do that humane thing. Let them find a new opportunity that's a better fit. The second tough decision I see people avoid making is not being the leader that your firm needs for its next stage of growth. Now, there's a reason why these first 2 decisions relate to people. It's because they're the hardest to make and they have the biggest impact on your future. Now, I realize that you probably didn't get in the business because you want to manage a large team. But when your business gets to a certain size, you become the bottleneck. Your ability or inability to attract, lead, and retain key people becomes the governor or the accelerator to your future growth. So I want you to picture this. You've got people on your team, and there's a certain level of performance that they're capable of doing. Let's call that their maximum performance. And then there's another level, let's say it's right here, that they have to maintain just to keep their job. Now, the difference between the minimum and the maximum, let's call that discretionary effort. And so as a leader, the best leaders get people to give that maximum discretionary effort. And they don't do it through intimidation or through fear or cajoling or berating. They do it by being a great leader, by giving people the opportunities, by creating an environment and a culture and a structure and a dynamic that encourages people and that makes people want to deliver that discretionary effort. Now, we've all heard about quiet quitting. Well, quiet quitting is simply people deciding that I'm just going to give the minimum, okay? I'm not going to give any discretionary effort. So the great leaders are able to create the environment where people will give that great discretionary effort. So the key here is you've got to make the decision. You either have to become that great leader or you need to hire someone who's going to do it for you. Either one can work. I've seen many situations where either one of those situations can work, but you got to decide. If you're just muddling along trying to do both, it's just not going to work. Having a big list of clients and also trying to run the company. At some point, you get to the size where you need some full-time leadership. Number 3 is not identifying a clear, compelling aspiration for the firm and effectively communicating it. If you've built a multi-million-dollar revenue business, you've probably run into what is called the rule of 3 and 10. And what that means is for every 3x or 10x in the growth of your business, you're going to run into some problems. You're going to run into some big bottlenecks. You're going to reach a pivot point, and you're going to have to make some big, tough decisions about whether or not you're willing to do the work that's necessary and make the investments that's necessary to get to that next level of growth. Or you may decide this is good enough. I'm making $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $5 million a year. This is pretty good. And that is very, very good. And you may decide I'm just going to try and continue doing what I'm doing and sort of milk this thing. Well, you can do that. But what I have discovered is you're probably not going to be very happy doing that if you're not challenging yourself. So what I want you to think about is when you reach that inflection point is dig deep, spend some time and come up with that compelling aspiration for your firm and for you personally. And if you can do that, if you can really get to that aspiration that really connects with you at a deep, visceral level, it's going to make the decision much, much easier in terms of where you go when you hit that 3x or 10x inflection point. Number 4 here is continuing to be the lead advisor for less complicated clients or for way too many clients because it's easy. Now, when you started in the business, you pretty much would work with anybody that wanted to work with you. And that's fine. That's how pretty much we've got to get started. But there comes a point when you've reached a level of success where you've got way too many clients that you're working with, and you're working with clients that really aren't challenging you anymore. And so what you have to think about is, how are you going to structure your time so that you're working with those clients who are really going to challenge you to be at your best, those complicated situations that really require you to have the knowledge that you've gained over 10, 15, 20, 25 years in the business. So you got to ask yourself, what's the highest and best use of your time? So when you're reaching for something that's just outside of your grasp, it's going to propel you, it's going to invigorate you to do what's necessary to step up and try and reach for that. On the other hand, if you continue to take the easy route, do the simple thing, the easy thing, it's like gravity on steroids, where it's just going to be dragging you down to that lowest common denominator. So I want you to ask yourself to make that decision to fill your time with the work that challenges you to be at your best, to be at the top of your game. It's going to be good for your business, and it's going to be good for your mental health. Number 5 here is not developing a proactive organic growth strategy and instead relying on passive referrals and existing clients adding more assets to grow your business. And of course, relying on the markets to go up over time. Now, I wrote an article about this back in 2022, talking about how, based on some data from the Charles Schwab benchmarking study, that for the 5 years ending December 2021, there was 0 organic growth on average for advisory firms. Now, they had shown revenue growth simply because the markets had gone up, but there was no organic growth. Now, let's get serious here. Organic growth is the lifeblood of the business. And if you don't have that, then you don't have room for promotions. You don't have room to reinvest back into the business for research and development, to come up with new opportunities and new technology and better ways to service your clients. And there's no room to really enhance those services and add the people and the technology and the resources that you need to really continue to do a fantastic job for your clients. So what I'd ask you to do as a leader, make that tough decision to put what's necessary in place for organic growth. Now, we could do a whole workshop on organic growth, but the one thing that I want to leave you with on that piece is simply organic growth starts with making a decision that you want to grow organically. And once you make that decision, and once you're committed to making that decision, then you're going to mobilize the resources to make that happen. And until you do that, you're just going to be tossed about like a ship on the ocean, to sort of quote a song lyric there. And you're just going to be subject to the whims of the markets, which, as we saw here in 2022, isn't a great place to be. That's not, if you're a serious business owner, you don't want to be subject to what the market's doing. So, all right, so those are the 5 tough decisions I see financial advisors often avoid making. So what's the next step here? Well, what I would recommend that you do is put some time out on your calendar, block some time out, and really look at these 5 tough decisions and ask yourself, which ones are you avoiding making? Okay, and maybe there's some other key decision that's not one of these 5 that you have avoided making, and really reflect on that. Talk to your trusted advisors. Maybe there's someone else on your executive team that you need to talk to. Maybe it's your spouse or partner that you need to talk to. Maybe it's your business coach that you need to talk to. Again, I coach a lot of financial advisors, and these are the kinds of conversations that we're having, helping them think through making these tough decisions. So that's it for today. And to learn more, you can visit my website at stevesandusky.com. Would also encourage you to sign up for my free email letter that I send out every couple weeks or so. It's called GTK, which stands for Good to Know. So, all right. So that's it for today. Thanks and take care.